What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Godspeed ZRZ. Now, as many of you have seen, there has been a lot of new information released about the all-new fully electric Jeeps that are coming to us here really soon. And I've had so many questions about it here recently that I wanted to give you guys my honest predictions on what I think the actual price, performance, and honestly the capabilities of these new electric vehicles that Jeep is going to be making. Now, it's ruffled quite a few feathers. Of course, it's going to be pretty controversial. We all know about the deadlines they've put in place for themselves. So let's dive into this video, go over what was actually said, and I'll tell you guys what I honestly think. It's easy to tell, Jeep has changed a lot, but they had a strong start.
Born in 1941, the Jeep brand has lived by its core values of freedom, adventure, authenticity, and passion. Over those 8 decades, we've been on an endless quest to build the most capable off-road production vehicles in the world.
And that same company now has its sights set on full electrification. With that being said, they already have 4xe platforms that they've put into many different models they currently produce, and apparently they've sold pretty well, leading the plug-in hybrids for #1 seller. And they're also debuting the Wagoneer S, which, as you can tell, 600 horsepower, 0 to 60 rating of 3.5 seconds. Much more aerodynamic than the Wagoneer we're used to seeing, and it's much more aggressive. It's even got a big wing. To go beyond that, they're also releasing an Avenger, which is a subcompact, more of a crossover style SUV that won't even be sold in the States. This one is more for day-to-day use, not really off-roading, which is 100% understandable, but they don't think they have a market for it in the United States. They will also be implementing the 4xe into the Grand Wagoneer. With that, a combined range of over 500 miles. Now that's fuel and the electric capabilities. It's going to be impressive. But the #1 thing is the new Recon. The Recon, which is supposed to stand next to the Wrangler, not replace it, but essentially be another option for customers in that category. Obviously, it's a very boxy design, very similar to the Wrangler itself, but from what I can tell from these videos, it's going to be a fully independent suspension vehicle with a unibody frame, which is actually pretty similar to the new Defender. So there are ways of making these new bodies, these unibodies, extremely dependable, durable, and tough. Aside from that, you can see the exposed hinges, which this is more of a rendering, but obviously the open air capabilities will be possible on the new Recon. So it even has a pull-out window in the back. Now, from the very back, you can tell that it's more of like a tailgate style we're used to from the Wrangler, but it doesn't look like the actual window and the tailgate itself are 2 separate pieces, so that should all be together. Aside from that, you'll see the Moab badge on the far right, which does mean they're definitely interested in its capabilities, and they've already stated that the range is capable of going all the way through the Rubicon Trail and taking you back to a town to recharge. But can it really make it through the Rubicon Trail? A lot of these new updates for Jeep themselves are a little bit outside of what they usually do, aside from the normal 4xe stuff, which they've been able to really show that they have been able to dominate the market.
Welcome to the future.
So hopefully that short video gave you guys a brief understanding of what is to come. But I've wrote down a couple notes and a few things that I actually noticed just from watching that simple video. One of the biggest things I noticed was the size itself is going to be extremely close to the Wranglers that we're pretty familiar with. It's going to be based off of the SLTA large chassis, so with that, it should be a very similar size. Now, in terms of interior space, obviously you didn't see the fender flares the way they are on the Wranglers, but you saw more of like the Bronco style fender flares that are molded into the fender itself. And with that, we could expect a little bit more interior space in terms of width, which would be a nice thing. It seems like whenever you're in a Wrangler, especially with 2 full-grown people, you're definitely elbow to elbow, almost shoulder to shoulder. So some more space on the inside would be nice. But Along with that, you saw definitely has the open air capabilities like we would expect to anything being related to a Wrangler. You have the one-touch sky view roof, which obviously is always a really nice thing to have. I don't have it in this one, but I've seen it on many different ones in the past. And of course, with the exposed hinges, you could tell that it's definitely going to be able to take the doors off. Now, the exposed hinges, it looked like more of a rendering more than anything, but they were quite a bit more apparent than the ones we have here on the Wranglers. So with that, it kind of makes me think that maybe the doors could be a bit thicker. And of course, this vehicle is probably going to be mostly aluminum based. So with that, the doors shouldn't be too awful heavy, but I would say it will have more material on the inside than what the Wranglers do. And if they are a bit thicker, it's going to be quite a bit heavier. So the ease of just throwing them off with one hand and slapping them back on, it might take two people. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing I did notice was the rear tailgate. Of course, with the Wrangler, we've got the window that flips open, or the rear hatch that flips open, and the gate that you open like this. And with the Recon, it looks like it's all going to be one piece that you'll open, more of like a G-Wagon style. And with that, it also had the rear window actually out or rolled down. So I assume that it would probably be more of a center button that you could just roll the window down in the back, very similar to like the Toyotas do. And I think that would be a pretty cool feature. And then to go beyond that, of course, you could tell that it didn't look like any solid axles. From that one slide, you could kind of get an idea if it was going to have solid axles or not. And it does look like it's going to be independent suspension all the way around, much like the vehicles that are more based on-road, but it could still have very good off-road characteristics with the right articulation, but it's also on a unibody. So if any of you guys are familiar with the XJs that we had in the past, that was a unibody design, as well as the new Defenders that are out now. So with the newer technology, it is a lot easier to make them more rigid, more durable. With older technology, they were just quite a bit softer vehicles overall, more prone to catastrophic failure whenever you're in hardcore off-road situations. But the Defenders have pretty much proven at this point that they can handle it. So if they have that technology, I'm sure Jeep does too. It doesn't really seem like too big of an issue, but they're also going to have all those batteries laid underneath as well. So with the batteries, it is going to be quite a bit heavier. I mean, you could be talking about a vehicle that's twice as heavy as the Wranglers that we're used to now. So I'd like to see how that comes into play off-road. It's definitely going to be a drawback in many different types of conditions. So I'm eager to see how they actually can perform. Now, they did talk about range in the video too, and the range that they quoted wasn't actual mileage. They just said that it could go through the full Rubicon Trail and back to town to recharge. So with that being said, I mean, that's only about 40-50 miles all the way back to town. Even if you leave from town, go to the trail and drive back, you're looking at maybe like 50 miles. So that's not really saying much. So estimated range, TBD, not really disclosed. That along with the power. So the power in the Wagoneer S was revealed at 600 horsepower, 600 electric horsepower, which seems pretty reasonable. So that leads me to believe, the Recon version may be somewhere around 500 horsepower. And that also leaves in, the towing capabilities. So a lot of people will be wondering what the towing capabilities are. And as we've seen through many different tests for the electric vehicles, the towing capabilities, although the numbers may be high, the actual range you can do while towing is usually never too impressive. I'm sure they'll still rate it somewhere around 3,500 pounds, just based off the restraints of the actual chassis itself, much like the Rubicon 392 behind me. Even though it's got the 6.4 and the good gear ratio and everything, it's only rated for 3,500 pounds, the same as my 3.6 Rubicon. At a certain size chassis, there's just really, you run into the limitations of the chassis itself before you run into the actual powertrain. So I'd say it'll be the exact same outcome for that. Now, in terms of off-road capabilities, it does look aggressive, and it looks like it's going to have the stock or the factory Rubicon tire selection, the BF Goodrich KO2s, in a 33-ish tire, which is more of a 32. But it looks like it's pretty aggressive on there. Now, they didn't stick out much at all. Obviously, didn't really look like they stuck out any. And the front bumpers really didn't look good. So just looking at the front bumpers, it looks like the actual entry angle and probably the departure angle too is going to be absolutely horrific. Like even if you try to drive up on a curb in a mall parking lot, you're probably going to rip the front bumper off. But you know, the Defenders look like that too, and once you do some minor modifications, they end up doing pretty well. You just have to be a lot more cautious of that front bumper, of all that plastic just hanging there. That's more than likely going to make contact with anything before your tire, unless you're really driving it the right way. With the Wranglers, you can be a little bit more carefree and just kind of nudge up to anything with the right bumpers, with the right setup of wheels and tires, and the tire should make contact first. One small feature I did notice was just the power seats. So having power seats in any kind of Wrangler vehicle would be pretty cool. We've never had that before. Even in the Rubicon 392, of course, they're all manual. Up till now, they've all been manual. And with that, it also leads me to believe you might not have the drain plugs on the inside. If you did, they'd have to filter through like the battery system and go through that way. So I'd say you won't have internal drain plugs on that one. So not necessarily going to be as like rugged as the Wrangler is itself. Now, obviously, the interior is still going to have to be able to handle weather conditions like rain. If you are caught out in a rainstorm, obviously they're not going to make something you can take the top off of, and one little rainstorm destroy your interior. So I'd be interested to see how they are going to do. You know, they might just tell you to get a shop vac and suck it out. You never know, but it still looks pretty cool. They also stated that they're going to have electronic lockers. From one of the angles of the interior pictures, you could see a switch, much like our Rubicons have now, and just a little toggle switch. It looked like actually front and rear, so that'd be really nice to see. Now, in terms of just the overall look, of course, it carries a lot of the Wrangler characteristics over, just in terms of the boxy design as well as the 7 slots on the grille. But I mean, if we're being honest, it kind of looks like a Wrangler Rubicon and a Bronco got stuck on a power line and made a baby, and it just came out like that. It's not really the best look in the world. It's kind of futuristic, it's kind of rugged looking, but it's just kind of weird right now, and that may be because it's so new. I also think it kind of looks like a miniature Hummer without a bed. So I'm sure they took some design elements from the new GM Hummer, and you know, for good reason. Those have been doing pretty well in terms of just customer feedback. Maybe it's not a bad thing to go that route with it. With the design, you can see that it had a much longer hood. So with that hood, obviously there's not going to be an engine in there. They're probably going to have like a really big frunk, so a lot more storage in terms of, you know, just camping or overland style off-roading. So I'd be excited to see a lot of the new overlanders adopt this new electric vehicle, see how they're actually going to charge it out on the trail, but also some of the new accessories that are going to come along with that. They did say they're going to be pretty aggressive on the accessories that are going to be available, much like they are for the Wrangler, and I'm sure they will really cater more towards the overland community more than like the hardcore off-road rock crawling community. As long as you can keep them charged, you could probably run a lot of cool stuff off of it, which would be neat to see, and I'm pretty excited to see what kind of, you know, accessories they'll make to go along with these EV off-roaders. Another thing that you guys might have noticed was the flat bottom steering wheel. Now, we don't have a flat bottom steering wheel in any of the Wranglers as far as I know yet, and it looked like kind of an SRT inspired steering wheel, which was pretty cool. The flat bottom, obviously, a lot of the electric vehicles are having weird steering wheels. You know, the Tesla has like the airplane steering wheel, which is pretty crazy. So I don't think that's too far out of the question to say that would come into production. Now, to get into what my honest opinions and projections are for the actual price, performance, etc., I think the base price starting off for these is going to start somewhere around $70,000. That doesn't seem too unreasonable for what Jeep does now. Of course, if you want, got that fly on camera. Of course, if you guys are familiar with the Rubicon 392, they start somewhere around $80,000. So with that being said, I don't think an EV platform in something that's supposed to be comparable to these, I don't think $70,000 is out of reach. I think the base price for one of these is probably going to be around 70, and they may top out closer to 100, maybe right below 110 with, you know, really loaded out equipment. But who knows? I think that'll be really extremely close based off of what they produce now and what they're asking for them. I feel like the range is going to be somewhere definitely under 300 for that body. I think if they use a similar motor as they will in the Wagoneer S, I believe it'll be rated for somewhere around 500 horsepower and probably have maybe a 250, 260 mile range, somewhere within that range. And that would probably suffice plenty of people. I think the Hummer is somewhere close to that as well. I'm not really 100% sure, but I think that would be at least acceptable, and that would do most people just fine. Now, pre-orders for these do start in 2023, apparently early 2023, and we might not see them into production until 2024. So 2024, the year itself, or maybe we'll see them in late 2023, as a 2024 model year, and that would be pretty cool. It'd be pretty quick, but with so little information on them right now, I really doubt that being possible. So I really estimate we'll see them in the actual year 2024, being the model year 2024. That's just about going to wrap it up for today, guys. If you guys do have questions about this, or some more information, something I didn't touch on, please let me know down below. This is something I'm actually kind of interested in. I wouldn't mind to have that as, like a third vehicle or something like that. It looks like it has, reasonable capabilities, and it could just be fun. It should be pretty quick. Of course, a lot of the EVs are a lot faster than we'd really assume. So I'm excited to see more of the numbers come out. But for now, I hope that answers a lot of y'all's questions that you have been asking me. I hope it at least gives you a basic understanding of this vehicle. That way you know more. That way you can really do a little bit more research whenever the information comes out. So let me know what you guys think about this all-new Jeep Recon, what your honest opinion is, and what you think they're really going to do. Obviously, this vehicle will be setting the stage for a whole new market. Of course, Rivian has some stuff out there, and Hummer has theirs out there now too. But hopefully, if Jeep does this correctly, the price point will be significantly less than the competitors, which is typically a route that they can go on if they want. And that could get, these EVs into the hands of much, much more people. And it really could set the stage for this market. I'm excited to see what happens, but you never know until they actually meet production. If you guys haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think and what you want to see next. If you haven't already noticed, I've got the new merch on right here, the new hat. Also got the new shirt, and it's got the Proverbs 16:3 on the side here. Godspeed ZRZ on the arm here, and just Godspeed ZRZ right there. So if you guys want to, if you want to support the channel, click the link in the description, or just click the link on the actual YouTube homepage and copy a shirt. Until next time, guys, just take it easy.